Howdy. Oh,
We'll give it a go. I'm going to pause the record. Okay. Howdy, everyone. It's Teddy Pins. I am battling a little under the weather here. So it is August 5th for those that are watching this in the future, 2021. We're glad everyone's here. Today, we're going to be reviewing an HPR coming soon listing that Emily Warner has graced us with. And it's going to be an online kind of workshop today of showing you how we evaluate pricing in the marketplace that we're in right now. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a sore throat. But in the marketplace we're in right now, I often say to sellers and buyers, the comps don't matter right now. And that's a very odd and bizarre and semi-scary thing to be in the midst of, but it's sort of true. It doesn't mean that there's not a price in which a property won't sell. You certainly will start seeing, if you haven't, I assure you they're out there and I'm seeing them, price drops. But I'm also seeing bizarre things like an agent increased a price $50,000 last night after they had dropped it 25 and 75. And so we're seeing a lot of very erratic pricing behavior in the marketplace. That said, I can still guarantee you that you have a greater chance of selling for the highest and best price if you price your property reasonably and competitively. Some of the language I've learned over the years is you got to be priced in the market, not on the market. Because a lot of people just want to be on the market. We use that language a lot, but it's kind of a cute distinction. You got to be in the market. So what is in the market mean? And in the buyer's representation, or excuse me, the buyer presentation, there's a pricing pyramid. And it shares and details like being priced competitively to guarantee you the most chance of competitive and showings. So all that being said, I caution people when they use the language, well, let's try it and see what happens. So that's something that I will address at the front end when I meet with a buyer of be careful of the let's try it and see what happens, because when you price something and you take it to market, it is your quote grand opening. And you don't get another chance to kind of get that back. So if you go out overpriced and then you're chasing the market down, often what happens is you will be you'll end up selling for less than I think you would have if you would have just went out competitively on the front end. Make sense? Any questions or thoughts? Let's rock and roll. Okay, so I'm going to share screen here. There's the one I want. Make sure where all of you went. You can still see your faces. Just give me one moment. There you are. I'm working with two screens here, so if you see me looking away, it's on my other screen. All right, so today we're going to be looking at a property in East Nashville at 2006 Stratford. And often when I go to price a property, one of the first things I'll do is I go to the tax record, but you can go straight into RealTrax and put the property up here in that property report, in that search, new listing search, and it's going to pull up this property report. It's going to show that it's off market. This is from CRS. It last sold. This is important information. It says single family residential condo. Okay, well, that's interesting. 1782 square feet. I like to know when it sold last, so I'm looking at closed in 16 for $349.9. Okay. Taxes $3,200. Minimal flood zone. So this is, excuse me, this is some data to help me get started. The next thing I'll often do, now she's the listing agent, so she's familiar with the property. I'm going to let Emily give a little more detail about it, but I'm going to give this as though somebody called us to price this house and I haven't seen it yet. So what do I show up with? Does that make sense? So can everyone hear me okay? Sweet. So I'm going to go, first thing I do is I go to residential search and I put in 2006 Stratford. I check them all. I don't put any restrictions here. Okay. And sure, I'll put an address, I'll put a zip. Is it 06 37206? 16. No results. That's interesting. So, okay.
I
Now
think because the status, because it sold so long ago, right?
No, I have no restrictions in here.
I don't know. That usually doesn't work for me when I'm looking up nothing active. I just do the quick search. Did that work?
Well, what I want to see is every historic sale. It did in the search. I'm just giving you kind of my. Okay, so when I don't put in a zip, it's going to give me Murfreesboro. I'll tell you, in most listings, I do this because it shows me all the previous MLSs, and that's important so I can pull that data rather than I can see the previous sales. But what I'm seeing by this is that the sale wasn't recorded in MLS. Okay, but you want to do that because in there any other situation, I'll show you. Well, let's pick something else. 241. Cherokee. Okay, so I used to own this house. This is important where I'm spending time on this because if somebody called me and said, please come give me a price estimate on 241 Cherokee, I want to see all the historic MLS so that I can use that as my guide that I walk through the property with to make notes on the MLS. So that's why I do this. So I can see, oh, wow, okay, I'll sometimes sort it by MLS number. I'll go to the most recent. And I can see this sold after, yeah, so this is interesting. I've sold since then, I think. Yeah, that's where I sold it. No, that's where Christy, so I sold it to her. Anyhow, point being, you want to be able to see what things sold for. And more importantly, I want to see the details. When I can look at an MLS, then I can see, okay, it's a 4.2, it's 2,400. I can see a closed sale. I can read any notes about it. I can see some photos in here. If there's other photos, they didn't have any. I think that was an off-market sale that she just put in for comp purposes. Yeah, there's no sales. Oh, it expired. So I can just kind of see it. It shows me a lot of data that may help me price a property. Okay, so I do always do this where I just click everything. I put the address in and I search the entire history. And sometimes there's a lot of sales in there, but there may be some things where you saw they just went on market last 3 months ago and didn't sell. If you don't do this, you may not see that. And it would be important when you go there, you go. So I see that you were just on the market 3 months ago and you tried 3 price reductions. Tell me why you don't feel that it sold. Make sense? All right, let's go back to Stratford. What I will do is I will typically go straight to the tax record. We'll put in 2006 Stratford. I start at the tax record for a couple reasons, in addition to that search. And I'm going to go into it here, right here. First thing is, of course, I'm looking at this. I see townhomes. You remember, I also saw the word condominium. So I need to, don't think just because something looks and talks like a townhome or a condo or a house that it's any of those things. Okay, never make that assumption. I can see who owned it, when they closed and what they paid for it, tax assessments and changes. Look at that tax change right there, friends. $1,000 in 1 year. Pretty impressive. I can see what the tax record's showing. It's showing a 3/2 2016 construction. It shows R10 zoning. Going to talk about this. This is a perfect one to do pricing pros for. R10 zoning, I'll just throw this in here. So the difference in R10 and RS10, the S designates that you can only put one home on the lot. If you don't have the S, like you see it designated here, but don't trust this, it is R10 means if it has a 10,000 square foot lot, which this does, but this map isn't showing that. But I'm going to show you another place that we look for data. It typically would be right here, but I'm going to explain to you why it's not right there. It's because they've split this lot, and they haven't split the lot. They have used this as an HPR. They've made it an HPR. And I'm very clear to maybe to not use the language split the lot, because there's instances where you can split a lot. But let's look at this lot, for example. And one of the things you're going to use in tax record is this button right here called View Larger Map. I always want to go to that. And I zoom in a little bit. And then, like, I've never been to this property. I don't have to go there to know what's going on. I can see, oh, you're one block. You're not even a block. You're 100 feet from a school. What else is around you? Oh, you've got Inglewood Park. I see a creek over here. First thing I'll do is click on these arrows. I'll click over here and go to the flood zone. Okay, you're not in the flood zone. All right. Let's see, I could look in here and I could see some recent sales. Let's see.
So I didn't know you could do that. And I didn't know that when you did that real track search before that you could do that. So this is very helpful.
Who's winning already, friends? I'm so grateful, like, because this is the good stuff. Like, look at how cool this is. I can see closed sales right here with this one click in CRS. Oh, I want to see under contracts. Oh, I want to see for lease. I don't bother with that. But I do put in this. And so then I can just click on this. Look at this. Click on that. Click on that. Boom. I'm straight into the MLS for that house 2 doors down. What it sold for. $519 for 1808A, which is important because this shows, oh, this is also a detached HPR. This thing just sold in 8/31 of 2020. I wouldn't have pulled this comp of the last 6 months, but it's good data. And I can then look through photos. I can see, okay, how does this compare to mine? Emily has sent photos. I'm going to show you those of what she's going to be listing. I can see this probably or could be virtual staging. I can sometimes see when it looks a little, look at the detail on that goalpost, friends. Virtual staging, I think. They do a good job, though. I'm going to tell you, box brownie for the money.
This house looks just like the listing on the inside. Kitchen's a little different, but this is a very similar downstairs vibe.
Great.
So
yeah. An impeccable comp, and it shows that it closed. It listed at $519. It sold in 3 minutes, and it sold for this list price. And we've got Zillow listing. I don't know why they listing each of them, put a Zillow listing in. That is very interesting. I've never seen that done. Virtual tour, the documents. Oh, our fellow Jamie Helms sold this. All right, and then I could also look at things, I could click their tax record and find out more there. These were a side to side. We are a front to back. Okay. Now, how did I know to click on that? It's because I used this drop down and I clicked on sold listings here. Okay. And you also have the choice up here on labels, recent sales. You can choose how far out you want to put them. Okay, so I use both of those. I use the recent sales tab and I use the listings in CRS. Okay. So I can even see actives and all that. Now, that's not an efficient way to do comps of hunting and pecking through here because these may not be a comparable property. You're going to use real tracks to do comps where I'm going to put the search criteria, but at least lets me see, okay, well, there's an HPR a couple doors down. I might as well click on that thing. Or, oh my gosh, I have an investor client. Who owns this piece of land right here? This looks like an interesting. Laura Ellis, trustee, paid $585 and 20 acres, 2.6 acres, landlocked right there. And then you can get yourself down the rabbit hole of clicking and finding dirt. But this is how a lot of the investors and wholesalers are finding stuff. They are in this every day, all day, looking and dragging, looking and dragging. Oh, I see there's a piece of dirt right here. Who owns this? Oh, the same person, Laura Ellis. Maybe we should get in touch with her. Let's go look at the report. Let's get her address. Let's, all the things. Okay. Very, very powerful tool that I use every time I'm comping. Now let's talk about HPR. This is when you click on the parcel, you'll notice that it says OIC. That OIC designates that this is an HPR. It means that none of these owners individually own any of this dirt. They literally only own the dirt that the house sits on. Even if there's a fence here, even if there's a driveway here, just because there's a fence doesn't mean that they own that part. Now, there'll be people that'll fight you on that, but you will win. Just like you see in a lot of these tiny houses, excuse me for my scrolling here, there's a fence down the middle of these. They each have their own garage, their own yard. I mean, it looks and talks exactly like, and you can change your layers over here too. To aerial, sometimes that's nice to see. But this one was in construction. But there's a fence down the middle and they each have a driveway and garage. One would say that this is my yard, this is your yard. And while you may use it as such, it doesn't mean you own it as such. It is owned by a third entity. And when I click on that, you'll see OIC, that the land is common area. It's in an association that's established at the time the builder designated the lot as an HPR. The only way they got that designation is because it was zoned R6 or R10 versus RS. I'll show a great example of this right here. Emily also just put a contract on for a property for a person right across the street from this. And it's right here. And this house is a cute little house. It's right across the street from this one that was allowed to put two. The listing that she's listing is right here in the back. They kept the house in the front and built a detached HPR, not a single family, a detached HPR in the back. This house in the back is the 2016 construction that we're pricing today. But the house in the front is the existing home. They don't own the land. This person gave up the rights to all the land when they turned it into an HPR to build that second home. Now, again, we don't get in the weeds of who owns it because it's collectively owned by the two people. They have say in what is done, such as pink flamingos or fences or things like that. Across the street, this house, you'll notice that she just made an offer on. Part of the consideration on when she put an offer in was you should always check the zoning in urban fill lots to make sure possibly that could be zoned for putting two houses. You can see she's the buyer's agent on this at 325. That seems like a pretty good deal. It's only 866 square feet. But what if you could build a second house on the back and sell it for $500,000? All of a sudden, this house would be worth probably more like $5,000 because I have the ability to build that second home in the back. Does that make sense, everyone? Great. So I've clicked on that tax record of the one she has the offer on, and I'm going to scroll down here and look if it's zoned R10 or RS10. You'll see it says RS10. The S is what limits this property owner from turning this into an HPR. The other site that I recommend that you use to check this stuff, and you should bookmark these, padctn.org. padctn.org. I'll put it in the chat. And yes, this is recorded, Rashad. And what do I do here? PADCTN.org.
What does it stand for?
I don't know. Property assessor of Davidson County,
Oh.
Tennessee.
Okay.
I just made that up, but I think it's right.
Sounds good. All right.
I use that one, and the one I use more is Metro Maps Nashville, what they call the parcel viewer. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. This is the one that's really my favorite. You go in here and you click, you're going to click on this magnifying glass up here. I'm going to put in Stratford. I did that as a parcel ID. That's why that didn't work, friends. You got to really pay attention in this one. Otherwise, you'll think it won't work, but it works. Boom, there it is. Okay. This is the property. Common area. See, they label it. This is really what the tax assessor and what the builders are using. And you can learn a lot through here. I'm going to show you all the keys to this car. So you can see it says it's a townhome. This is a legal description. It's unit B. I can also click here and it shows me who owns the front one. And I can click here and it shows me the outline. Do you see how the blue outline's changed? Makes sense? You see how this one, when I click on it, or the one that Emily has across the street, there's only one blue line? Just because something only has one house on it, never assume you can't put two. That's where you make a lot of money. I bought property. A lot of things that I've bought in the last couple of years, I just buy because they're zoned to allow for two. Eventually, I'll either sell it or tear it down and build two on them. Don't buy something thinking you can get it turned into allowing to if it doesn't allow to, because the city is not a fan and nor are the neighbors. They do not typically change zoning, even though you could say, well, the people across the street or my next door neighbor did it. You know, that doesn't mean anything. Okay. Here's one next door. It's an R10. Click view parcel details. We'll use this I'll show you how I can use this system to look at some of the data I need as well. It shows it was acquired in 2001 for $79,000. Somebody got themselves a heck of a deal. Here's the ownership history, property history, zoning history. So it was zoned R10 in 74. Have they had any assessments? Here's some other good information. What's the permit history? 2012, they were given a permit, and here's all the details on the permit. They put gas in 95. They had a plumbing permit, and who did it? Why is this so helpful? Please share.
So I like to look up the permit stuff, even if it's not a brand new build, to just know what work has been done with a permit. When was it done? Who did it? I was looking at my house just yesterday and was like, oh, okay, all my electric was redone in 2002. Nice to know. So I find that helpful. And then also seeing if some of those vendors are still in business, because a lot of them don't stay in business.
You saw somebody put in a daydo, a detached accessory dwelling, and they're renting it out. And then, you know, in the disclosure, it says, have any improvements been made without a permit? The seller always checks, no, everything was permitted. You realize, no, it wasn't.
I found massive undisclosed flood history on one by digging through this. Sylvia, it was crazy. They didn't disclose anything. And it was like, this flooded in 2010 and you ripped out everything, but you didn't tell us because it was a rental and you didn't have to.
Yes.
Kind of. They should have.
And so what's interesting is, let's look at this one across the street that she has an offer on. And I'm doing this because it's not just applicable to the house that we're going to get to pricing. And I promise you we'll get through it quickly. But I wanted to see, could I build one? Could I build that other dwelling over there? Let's look at this one. It's across the street. Let's look at its zoning history. Oh, it was R10. In 1998, they changed the zoning to RS10. That just dropped that property value radically. Because again, even though we don't love maybe the density that these HPRs provide, you can imagine being able to put an entire other home that you can sell for what you're seeing is $500,000. That's big money, friends. So the zoning, this is what the wholesalers, people that are out there just looking for deals, they don't have to be real estate agents, they are scouring these records, digging and digging and digging, RS, looking at, where are there some R10s, R6s. The 6 or the 10 designates the minimum number of square footage of the lot required to put the second dwelling. So if you're zoned R10, but the lot is 9,700 square feet, can you put a second dwelling? No, because you're not 10,000 square feet. Okay, these are bigger lots. In the nations, you would see things like R6 and R8, meaning it has to be 6,000 square feet or 8,000 square feet. All right, Ted, you've wasted enough of our time. Could we please price the listing that we came here for? Absolutely. The other thing I'll often do, because I've never been to the property, is I might put it in Google Maps. And I want to walk around and I want to see a street view of what am I looking at? Okay, it's on a corner lot. Right? It's on a corner, isn't it, Emily?
2006 is not quite on a corner, but there you go.
It's that alley. It's that.
That's it. So it's behind the ranch, but it faces Stratford. So its address is Stratford, and the other one's address is Piedmont.
And this is what she has an offer on across the street. But you can see what they did here, right, friends? I mean, this little guy or gal took this cute little house, recognized that they had the proper zoning, and built this 2006 sucker in the back. Or 16. Is it 06 or 16?
16's the build, 06 is the address.
There you go. No wonder I'm confused.
I know.
So
It's
I just
hard for me to keep them all straight, having two right near each other.
So I just am orienting myself, getting a sense of what I'm selling. Okay. And notice I have, it looks like a little bit of a yard. This person probably kept most of the, or designated that yard for themselves. But again, neither one of these people own any of the dirt outside of their front steps independently of the other. That is how an HPR works. All right, let's do some comps. Emily has sent us some photos. It has never been on the MLS before, so we don't have that luxury, but most times you will, and that is why it's very important to go pull those prior MLSs, print the most recent and applicable, and take that to your walkthrough to price with. Emily, is the data that it shows in the tax record for this listing, is it correct in that it's about 1,782 square feet?
It is 1,735 square feet. We had it professionally measured.
Such a good agent. And a 3-bed, 2-bath?
3-bed, 3-bath.
See, friends, tax record not right. Would you want to get that corrected?
Sure would. No, sure wouldn't.
Why?
Sure wouldn't.
Why would?
Out of my lane.
No, this is good. This is the logic would be yes. Why do you could you all guess why you would not want to change this if you are the seller or the owner? Julia, I think you have a guess.
The square footage is more.
Well, I like the square footages more. I wouldn't change that. And if I'm Emily, I would go with my professional measurement. If she thought it was going to be short, I would measure it. Otherwise, I always like to use the largest quoted square footage, but the fact that she measured, you'd want to use that. But why would we not want to change the bathroom to the 3-bath in the tax record and alert the tax assessor? Because it's going to raise the property taxes. the computer algorithms are using the square footage and the bedroom bath count to determine and estimate the taxes. So I don't care if this data is wrong, because that's what's determining your property tax, friend. That's why they want permits. Permits aren't to make sure it's all done right, or let's say they are kinda, but it's about tax dollars. They want to know you're adding on to your property so they can increase the square footage and the tax assessment, and they can get paid what they're dutifully owed. Make sense? So the good news is that's why I asked Emily that. You would ask your seller on the phone, I see your tax record shows it's 3-bed, 2-bath. Is that true? No, we have 3 baths. Okay, good to know. So when I go to my comps, let's clear our comps and let's start building our data set. When I start comps, I go to status first and I hit check all, I'm giving you all my little tips here. I uncheck expired withdrawn, and I typically would put 6 months. I will tell you more recently, I've been doing 3 months because data that's 4 and 5 months old isn't really applicable. But for now, let's just start with 6. I don't even bother with county. I might put zip, but I'm probably going to do a map search, and I'm going to tell you how I determine why. Let's say I don't typically use zip codes, because zip codes don't tend to be what determines an area of comparable sales. Excuse me.
I'm so glad that we did this.
Excellent. So I might not even know where Stratford is. I got to look on a map and go, where's Stratford? Oh, okay. Stratford's like near Inglewood. I can kind of see there's Riverside. Here's the park. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back to my tab. I'm going to figure out where that was. Where's Stratford on the map? Oh, it's like up here. There's Stratford, Riverside. Okay, so how far should I map it? I go to draw. Some people would just grab this circle tool and go, I don't know, like a couple miles. That's good. Well, that's a disaster, friends, because first of all, stuff over the river is not a comp. And also, East Nashville, you could be 3 streets over, and that is not comparable. Crossing Gallatin is a different neighborhood and comparable. Would you agree, Emily? Okay, so I don't use circle tool.
I try to like keep it inside major roads.
Yeah, so I look at Riverwood. Okay, I don't want to get too far out. So for now, I'm just going to do some draggy, okay? And I'm going to just throw this out here at first. I'm using Gallatin as a space not to cross, not because there aren't comparable homes over there, but I'm just going to see, would this give me enough data to use in 6 months? Now let's just start with that shape for a moment. Let me fill in a few other things. I know it's a 3-bed, 3-bath. I'm going to put a 3-2, okay? Because there's more 3-2s than 3-3s. And I think I want to see that data. It doesn't have a garage, but if it did, I may indicate that. But know that garages is a big distinguisher of, especially in East Nashville or Sylvan Park, there's still comps that don't have garages. And so by putting in a garage, you might be missing a lot of data that you need. It's 1,700 square feet. So I'm going to use a range of probably 1,400 to 2,200 square feet. Any questions about what my data choice? Okay. I'm going to hit search. 135 results. Yahtzee. Well, that just shows you. So let's go back to my map and see. My goodness, how many sales is that? So I've got a couple things going on here. This is just a huge data set. And I'll sometimes look, I'm like, I don't need 135 results. So I'm going to narrow it down even more. This is a detached HPR. Let's just look at HPRs and watch the cookie crumble. 42 results. Now we're into comparables, okay? If this was a single family home, I would simply only select this. Do you see what I did? It is extremely important that you designate this criteria. And if you see a listing that's designated as site built, but you know it's an HPR, report the listing because this data is so important so we can search properly. Okay. Now, if you're searching, I've got a client looking for a tiny home today that we're showing down in Monteagle. Tiny homes are under manufactured, so you need to include that. You just have to understand you'd have to go in and self-select and get rid of the traditional mobile home. But look at that difference, right? When we do detached and attached, although detached would typically bring more money than an attached. I still have 42 results, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of attached. I will only want detached HPRs, and I always watch this numerical change here to see how is my data improving. See where it says 42? Got rid of attached. Let's see. Now we're down to 31. Even better. Okay. I got a lot of data near me. I've got some of these outliers over here. I can always change my shape if I wanted by hitting draw. Click it twice, and then it'll let you bring this in a little bit. Get rid of that 499er up there. All right. Search again. This is plenty of data. These are all detached HPRs. They're all in a good square footage range. They all have a 3.2. They are in the last 6 months. I could even do myself a favor and go 3 months. 18 results. Now this is that's what the appraiser is going to do. The more current, the better, right? Stuff that's sold in January is not going to be worth as much stuff that's sold in June. It's just the truth. Now you have to know your market. If your market's declining, going back further, you'd have to make a consideration for that and talk to your seller about that. We're in a declining market versus an improving market. I'd say right now the market is stable to declining. I'm seeing some price drops, friends. I think that the market is cooling as school started. I'm not saying it's crashing. I don't think we're going to experience a crash, but I think we're cooling a little bit. I don't know that to be fact. Now, I don't get into looking at all of it first. I immediately go to the list. I select all, and I go to the comps. I go to the CMA. I just want to see some data first. I don't bother with what's going on up top. I go straight to closed. I don't even look at this. It doesn't matter because that's just what's on the market. I'm interested in what did people use money and close on? And then I start looking at the data. Okay, the averages. Average and median. Well, that's not going to get you a comp, but you can look at it. Average is 2,000 square feet. Well, we're under that. So I need to look at things maybe a little closer. The under 2,000 is going to be potentially a big deal. And then if it had a garage. We don't have a garage, so that might be another place where I go back to, and you'll see all these tabs open in my thing, where I go back to my data set. Where is it here? There it is. And I could put garage 0. Again, I'm going to watch my results. I had 18. Yahtzee down to 8. Even better though, I don't need 85 listings. I need 3 good comps. Now look at this data. Okay, now everything's more under 500. All right, let's go click everything again. Click it twice. They all check. Click more, click CMA. I go straight to closed. These are all detached HPRs. Here's a 3.3, 3.3, 3.3. 18, 18, 19, 499, sold for the same list price. You know, this is good data, and I can click on the listing right here. Are these good comps? Darn straight. Good comps. We know they don't have garages. Like, I don't even need to get in the weeds with it. I can just click, click, click. I know it's what I'm really concerned of. It went active. It went under contract 31 days later. Kind of took a while considering the market, but maybe that's the right price at that time for that product. Is this a better or different street? Maybe I want to see, oh, this thing interests me. This is kind of cool. I wonder what they paid for it. This is important. You'll see I just added in the forum this morning on Facebook. Why are agents not including this? And I think because they don't want us to click this and have access to that data. You can go to tax and find it, but ooh, so here's one where you can see this detached HPR. They each have their own lot. So this is one where they had kind of split the lot. It has its own lot. They actually do own all that. Point being, you can see I always like to go back, oh, okay, J2K Builders built it. They sold it for 426 and 19. This person sold it 495 and 21. And then you can go down the same rabbit hole and zoom out and go to all the things, but this is how I quickly dig through the data. Make sense? Okay, so I'm looking at my comps. What's our other comps? I'll run it again real quick. Then you got to get nuclear with it and go, are we on better streets or better situations than the other people? Because I do see these other ones. This one sold for 525. It's over 2,000 square feet. And you also notice in pricing things, the higher the square footage, the lower the price per square foot. Not always true, but typically if two things were comparable, there's an economy of scale. So sometimes when you'll have these builders or investors and say, that house down the street just sold for 300 a square foot and we're 2,000 square feet bigger. If I multiply my footage by 300, I should be worth 42 million. It's like, well, it doesn't work like that. That's like pricing cars by the pound. It doesn't work that way. Okay. And I'm giving these little bits. This is some of the language I use when working with sellers and just talking about pricing. You know, you want to find a good, reasonable price. I think based on looking at this, somewhere in that 5 to potentially 515 range is the right price. I'd also look at what are we going to be competing against. So I scroll up and then that's where I go, okay, well, this sucker was 1869, built in 2017. It's a 3.2.5. We're a 3.3. Listed at 515. LTC is list to contract. It took 12 days to go to contract. It was 4 days on market. Is that right? No, it was 4 days to go to contract. Listed on 7/9, under contract on 4 days later. They're accepting backup offers. Do we look better than this house? Super tall ceilings with the transoms up here. That's to me potential premium. Really nice open plan. By my hunch, and I haven't showed you Emily's house pictures, this may be a little nicer. Maybe that 15,000 to put them over 500. What I would discourage is ever pricing something at 505. If you're going to be that close to a major threshold, never, ever, ever price $5,000 over a price category. If you've learned anything from me, don't ever price a house at $379.9. It is the bane of my existence. 375 is the threshold. The next one is 800, is 400, 425, 450. You don't price things at 452. I don't know why people think 79 is a good number. 279.9. No, you are 275 even. You're 275 instead of 274.9. Why is that? If you were thinking about pricing at 275, would you price at 274.9 or 275? Tell me why.
More people will see it
Why is that?
because they're looking up to an even number. Or not an even number, but like around.
Let's say that I price something at 274.9. And somebody searching in MLS for a new house and they said my budget is 275 to 350. You just missed them for $99. Look at Julia. See, I've been telling everybody the same thing she says. But we do it. And I even break my own rules sometimes, but you shouldn't. Price it on the nose. Now, it's not often that somebody that can afford 275 to 350, that they're not going to pick something closer to their ceiling because it's going to give them a nicer home. If you can afford it, often even looking at that. So, but you'll see people do it all the time. Now, if your house is truly worth 510, I don't necessarily discourage 500, but I may not, in this market, I'd probably still pick 500 and let them bid it up. And the market will do such, okay? The other thing I want to look at as I'm looking at these comps is, let's look at this crazy person for 579. What are they selling? Gold toilets. So I click on it and I click through and I look at, okay, these photos are terrible. It's like they got like the summer fun filter that they forgot to turn off on their Insta. Whatever. Why does everything look like it's angelic and like in a white haze? It's terrible, friends. But hey, check out the pantry, it says. I'm glad they labeled it. I want a TV show. This is way more interesting than the HG shit they're pushing. I mean, really, that's the pantry? Oh, man. Sometimes you know you've done something too long, you might have to hang up the cleats. Am I right, though? Do y'all disagree? A lot of photos. I like that. They've got a little fenced yard, no garage. Remember, we stipulated no garages. If there was only 2 listings in here, then I would put the garages back in. I've got to have a decent data set, or I'd go back to 6 months. But notice how I don't bother filling in counties. The status, I click everything but expired or withdrawals. Now, we could go play that game too. If there wasn't enough data, let's go see any expired or withdrawals in this data set in the last 6 months so that we can see people that tried the market and they didn't get it. Like this sucker over on Riverside, they tried 524 and they withdrew it. Listed on 13th, dropped it on the 19th, withdrew on the 24th. Really committed seller. Robbie Stone. There's a reason. Maybe he bought it. Maybe they were trying it. Who knows what the reason is? We could always just text Robbie and find out, why did you withdraw? But here's a detached HPR, and I'm sure you all know the reason for you Easties, why this did what it did, because y'all know everything going on all the time. Here's another one that was withdrawn. Let's see, active, 20 days later, withdrawn. Did they relist it? Yep, there it is. Put it on at 539, withdrew it, and then we put it back on at 579. That's the kind of crazy shit I'm seeing out there. Had we not done this, though, do you see where, let's say your client was interested in this. By clicking this record, they've withdrew it, and you're not going to see that in the history of the listing. Well, you can see the complete sales history. You can see where they put it active right there. So make sure you're clicking on that button on these as well. You can see where they did it there. This feature didn't used to exist in RealTracs, but it's helpful. So you can see, oh, it sold for 509 and 21. Okay, why are we already reselling it 2 months later?
Job change, duh.
Of course, right? So then I click on the, this is where I click on that tax record link. You see how I just did that from the listing? And then I can go down here and I want to see the story. So it looks like originally sold for $295 and 19. Wish I would have bought that. Then it sold for $314. I have to make sure this is not, remember it was an HPR, so this just says 1112. Which unit was it of the 1112? Remember the, sorry, hold on. There's a lot, so there's a B and an A, and that can get confusing for the tax record. So when you click on that, sometimes it may pull up the record of the other house. Okay, because when I click on that data, you can see that this thing says it's sold. Don't trust this data as being it's actually that sale in an HPR. It could be the A unit that sold. Point being, you'd want to reach out to the agent, Katie Morrell. I typically just scroll, copy. It's why I use a Mac. I can go straight into my text program, put it in there, and I can text her straight from my computer. Why is your property selling already? Why did you raise the price $42,000, overnight? We added gold toilets. Okay, well, that makes sense. But I typically otherwise will not look at expired and withdrawn data unless I need it. It's very helpful to be looking at that when you represent a buyer. So before you make an offer on a property, I always click select all, don't put any date restrictions, and put the address in so you can see any MLS history, and then always check the tax record to see any sale history. Because plenty of things sell off market and don't get put in MLS, and the tax record will be where you would see that recording. Make sense?
I have a silly question. What is HPR? What's the difference between HPR detached and attached?
It's a great question. It's not silly. So I'm going to show you to answer your question.
Because at first I thought it was just like a standalone, like tall and skinny, but if it's A and B, like they had B. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Attached just means they're physically attached. So this is an A and B
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
attached. These are still, this is probably an A and B also, but they're detached.
Thank you.
Yep. And don't assume that the agent got it right. I see plenty of agents put a detached HPR as a single family site built, and you should report it every time. You're not a jerk agent to do it. If I saw that this was listed as detached and I saw it was attached, I click on the listing, you click over here. Where am I going? More. Report this listing. It'll pull up a window. You will put in there, even if directions are wrong, if people just say use GPS, that's a violation of the MLS. Okay. I'm not over here reporting a ton of listings, but if you see shit that's wrong, this data is very important for us. So put in if the status is wrong, you just put other. You just put this is a detached, or this is not a single family. It is an detached HPR. And you'll see this stuff. And they're very grateful for it. It's anonymous. You're not told. The listing agent is simply told to change the data, and the MLS makes them do that. Why do agents put things in as single family? Yeah, Julia, go ahead.
This is kind of unrelated, but since we're talking about a third entity owning the land, like my question is, what if I want to put like a plunge pool in, or I want to add anything onto that land? What are my restrictions to do that? I mean, who do I have? What happens in that case?
It's such a great question, and let's see. Here's a good example. This person's selling this property. There are HPR documents, just like if you bought in a condo that has rules and regs. They are required to be created at the time the HPR is made. And an agent or seller should have access to them because they signed them. But I'm going to tell you 99% don't even know they bought an HPR. Their agent barely knows what they are, and they didn't keep track of their documents. In fact, they didn't keep up the filing fee to even keep the LLC valid in the state of Tennessee. This is a monster nightmare problem that is existing that no one's talking about or alerting anyone about, that was only a problem when it becomes a problem, such as Julia wants to put in a plunge pool and have all their friends over, and they put it in their backyard, and all of a sudden the neighbor's upset. What do you mean we're in an HPR? You're not an HPR. You have no rights over my backyard. This fence, this is my yard. No, it's not. The truth is everybody's operating under this like assumption that what looks and talks like mine is mine, and what looks and talks like yours is yours. I'll use an aerial to show this example. And the truth is the documents exist where they're filed with the state. Like, see these little pretty fences back here? So the truth is, most of the time, you would just build your plunge pool and nobody cares. It's more about when you let your front yard go to hell. Or let's say that this house needs access to this person's driveway to get to it. Sometimes that exists in an HPR situation. There's plenty of unique situations whereby the HPR, it's more obvious that it serves purpose. Most of those restrictions are very boilerplate and don't have, I was going to try to see, we'll look through some of these HPR listings and see if somebody has, oh, please view the documents. This is great demonstration though. This shows you, this is what gets recorded with the state. A surveyor puts this together. See if I can zoom out here. Can y'all see okay? We're hosting a clinic here today, friends. I'm so glad you're on. This is Scott Avenue. This is an even better example. This is common elements. How does unit B get to their unit? they have to drive down past unit A's driveway. Do you notice how it says limited, unit A limited common element, unit B limited common element, and then we've got a shared driveway common element? We got all sorts of things going on in this one, but it's a good example where this back unit would have been landlocked. This lot wasn't wide enough to put the HPRs side by side. They had to go front to back, but we had to give a driveway to get back here. Well, who maintains that? All that's in those HPR documents. Those should be in the listing, but as I said, most people, when they do a redesign, this is new construction. So he should post, Newell, the HPR documents, and they do exist. You would ask the listing agent, send me over the HPR documents. They typically use a title attorney to create the HPR documents at the time they went for the approval. Does that make sense? Okay. The monitor just blacked out. There we go. All right, so let's get to the pricing. $650 for that sucker. Why is that so expensive? Well, it's new construction. It's 4 bedrooms. It's it's 3 baths. And clearly the market paid for that one, right? And that's a detached. So with no garage. So would that influence our opinion that we could go over 500? Maybe. Let me get rid of those attached again. Let's get back to our core data set here. That 650 would definitely be considered an outlier. I mean, it's new construction and it's got all the things that, you know, people want right now. So I think, but your seller is looking at this stuff. And so if you don't talk about what you think you don't want them to think influences their price, you might lose the listing. Because they've looked at Zillow, so you should always Zillow your listings. And Sylvia mentioned I would look at micro neighborhoods. Scott is different than the others. So even though our map is geographically near our subject property, that 650s right here is talking about kind of those micro neighborhoods. Comments, thoughts, questions?
What's your recommendation for, I guess, looking at Zillow, just to see what they've looked at and what they've seen before you throw out a number?
Absolutely. Your clients have looked at Zillow, Redfin. They've gotten letters from Open Door with some DS number. You've got to know the data that they're looking at or have seen. So I'll go to Redfin, I'll go to Zillow's and see what are they telling these people.
Just because I know it's not always obviously it's not accurate, but I mean, it's probably just good to know what they're like.
Exactly. It says it's
Sorry, y'all,
440.
I'm so new. I'm like,
Grace, this is so perfect. This is so perfect. This is how you learn without making the mistakes with your clients and then feeling like, oh gosh, you know, like you're going to be, your ramp up period so less. So here's what's Redfin saying. Okay, well, that's interesting. Cool, Redfin. We'll see how.
Can I chime in a little, Teddy?
Please.
So with these sellers, you know, like you were just saying, the sellers are all looking at all these other things. One thing they're always looking at is what's active and not what has sold. And so once you share that info, they're like, wow, you're so smart. I didn't know that. So that's one thing. And then also when they try to pull comps, I have to say, well, that's great. I'm so glad you found them. Send them to me and I'll take a look. And I wait and I spend some time on each one. And I gave them a bullet of why or why not, you know, it worked and they loved that. So just if anyone runs into that, that was helpful, I guess.
Yep. And I'm going to, you notice how I haven't even showed pictures of Emily's yet. Now I would have looked at those and I will show you those so you can kind of see, but I'm going to scroll down now. Now pay attention. Stratford, there's one in Murfreesboro. You might want to look at the realtor.com listing, but okay, so because they Googled their own address. Let's see if a Zillow listing comes up. There you are, Zillow. Zillow doesn't even know what to do with it because it's a HPR. Oh gosh, the Zestimate says 528. So there you go. Look at that distinction in Redfin and Zillow. And if you think they haven't seen this, you're fooling yourself. If you don't think they can't sell it themselves because the market's so hot, and maybe avoid your 3% and still pay a buyer's broker 3%, you're wrong. They're being recruited to avoid and make it easy. That Mark Spain says they could give us a guaranteed offer. We could avoid all the hassle of showing. If we're not talking about it with our sellers, we're fooling ourselves to think that they're not aware of it. My longest standing client, I've sold 30 homes in 15 years with him, is considering hiring a limited listing for $300 to give him an MLS number for coming soon on his $1 million+ house in Sylvan Park. And he says, Ted, it's not even about the money. I'm just thinking I want to do something fun and different. Now this guy's been very loyal. He's my #1 client. Been a builder, and I've sold a lot of homes for him. We had a long talk about it. No decisions have been made yet, but still, I then went out and I educated myself a lot about, is there a company giving you a coming soon? They won't go active, but they'll give you a coming soon MLS number for $300. I'm like, okay. He hasn't, because his friend, it's always the friend in Franklin did it. He thought his house was worth 500. He got 700. Ted, it's blood in the water right now. And that's true. And my answer? The good news is you're not paying me just to find you a buyer. We could just put a sign in your front yard, maybe put some lemonade out, and they'll come in droves. My value isn't served by getting you on the market. Anybody can do that. You can hire your own professional photographer. Just let's get past that. Our expertise as agents is staging and marketing. It's a part of what we do. My biggest value is served to protect when the shit goes wrong. You don't need a good attorney until you need a good attorney. You don't need good insurance until you have a problem. So we're here to protect against the 1%. Let's hope we don't have to, and then you can feel bad that you paid me and you didn't need to. But I promise you, it's very rare where there aren't issues that come up that we have to navigate through. All these like Cinderella stories that you hear, that they think they're hearing about their friends, they don't hear the stories where the buyer walked out or fell out or the financing or the this. So it's a real easy, calm rebuttal as to my value is served really when we get under contract and making sure everybody does what they're supposed to do and know what to do when they don't. That's what we do, right? That's just, we're here to solve problems. We're not here just to facilitate transactions. And there's wrought for problems, and it's an enormous asset in which to be dancing with that problem. All right, we have gone so long and over. I think we've covered so much today. Do we hear a vote? Give me a thumbs up if you think the home should be priced. Let me show the photos so y'all can know what you're comparing against. Let's go.
The price is right. Come on down.
She's had her photos
No
done.
one's gonna hurt my feelings. I want to hear what y'all think. I really.
She's had her professional photos taken. Wait till you see these beauties. She hired Studio Buell. They're very. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the photos. Sweet. It's a beautiful, cute home. We know a lot more right now. You know what you're looking at, right? You know what's going on over here to the right. You know what the lot is, all the things. There's adorable Emily. Okay, I'm going to kind of pan through real quick here. You can see, okay, we've got a parking pad off street. Got some trees and shrubs probably need to be dealt with. I got a fence coming down. We're going to rip her apart right now. Looks like everything needs a fresh
We
coat
are
of
fixing the fence, and I will have that in the remarks.
Everything probably could use a fresh coat of stain. Don't think you should have waited for that for photos. Love the ceiling paint up here in the covered porch. This is really sharp and tidy. I'm looking at things like I can see there's a ring cam, a video cam back here. It looks like I got a detached thing over here, which is cool. Looks like 2 HVAC systems. These are the things, if I was representing a buyer, that I'm looking at, okay? And also as a pricing. The photography is really done. You'll notice, yes, there is a lot of furniture and things. Emily's done a great job in coaching these folks. It was a lot different than where it was right now. We got gas cooking, granite countertops, 42-inch uppers. Little tip, uppers are either typically 36 or 42. Anytime they look taller, the 42 is the next standard height. They look shallow, they're 36. And then the upgrade would be cabinets to the ceiling. It keeps jumping forward here. We've got wood treads. So I'm just kind of assessing all that in my look. Looks like open plan, newer, like we said, 2016. Love the exposed beams. So just to give you a sense, double vanities, the hutch in between.
There are 2 big ass master closets.
Rain head shower, wand, so premium shower, cute secondary bedrooms. These are called 5-panel doors, very common in a craftsman home. More granite countertops. My favorite overused door handle. It's not my favorite, by the way, but I'm not knocking. I'm just saying this is the classic builder. I want to be contemporary IKEA cabinet pull. Nice laundry room. No wire shelving. Huge master suite primary closet. And then all the cool stuff for the people relocating. This is really good to include in your photos. Really, really good, especially with the amount of reload right now. They don't know what's around there, and don't trust their agents ever been to East Nashville. Okay. Beautiful home, right? All right, now I don't even remember, how does that compare to our comps? Well, let's go back and look at that sucker that sold for the highest closed comp, sold for $575, listed for $529, sold for $575. I immediately look to the year built. That's how I always do it. And go, my gosh, this thing sold for $50,000 over list. I look at who the list agent is, buyer's agent, any data down here. Notice we still don't see any HPR docs. Nobody posts them or shows them except at the closing table. Much more contemporary. This looks like 4-on-1. So to the right buyer, this might be more appealing. To other buyers, I wouldn't buy this over that in a heartbeat. We have gas cooking. Those are 42-inch uppers, obviously taller ceilings. Less charm and character, in my opinion. We've got a rooftop deck. Maintenance nightmares typically, unless they're done right. Pretty builder basic, friends. Very builder basic. But good for them. They got 50K over list. That helps our comps. Tankless gas water heater. How do you know it's gas, Ted? Well, you see a big pipe like this going in, and you see a big discharge pipe. You never have to guess. If you ever see a big discharge pipe coming out of the tankless, you know it's gas. I personally have an electric because I didn't need it for my house. You can get them on Amazon cheaper, but they're not as efficient, but they're more affordable to go electric, but the gas works a lot better, especially for bigger homes. What else is in this room? Washer dryer. I can see the hookups right here. That would also go in that room. So again, if I don't talk to this, wow, you have 4 parking spaces. If I don't talk to this with my seller, some other agent or their friend is. And so I need to address, and don't ever think that no HOA means it's not an HPR. In an HPR, there is not typically an association that you have to pay dues to, but there still is. There is an HOA. It's just not in the traditional way. Make sense? So what do we think? This thing was 27 square feet, 3.5. So I think they're worth more than us. Based on the CMA, I think it's decision time. We'll look at the CMA data just to look at price per foot. That one that sold, it was at $270 a foot. Let's just do a quick calculation. We are 30 square feet.
Yeah.
at 500,000 divided by 1730, that's 289 a square foot, 289. So you can see even at 500, we're a heck of a lot higher per square foot, even at 500,000 for us. That's where that price per foot makes such a big difference. So make sure you're always being clear about the distinction between price per foot and gross sales price. 575 seems high, but being that it's that much difference in square footage, when you start talking $200, $300, $400 a square foot, or $1,000 a square foot is the going rate at some of the downtown condos. Every 12 by 12 inch tile is $1,000 of airspace. You can see how radically it changes the price. So we don't let the 575 influence you in the sense of, ooh, maybe we should be 550, 530. Does anybody want to throw out, put it in the chat what you think it should be priced at, or give me a thumbs up if you feel strongly she should go over 500. Should she price over 500? Okay. Everyone seems to be nodding over 500. Should she be over 510? Okay. D, are you nodding? You think so? You're muted.
You're muted.
She should be over 510 because of your Ted Penn's rule. But
Okay.
you don't pick a weird number like 510.
I would never go 505. I would maybe go 510. Do you think, so what do you think, D? Where do you think she should price? Let's just get everybody's thoughts. You're not held to this and she's not going to trust you anyway.
Oh, I'm not. I've been dog sitting a crazy dog who keeps having to jump around. I have not been paying enough attention to give you a very good answer.
It's okay. What's your guess?
Let's
pick a number.
Well, I would say 519, but that doesn't go with your rule either.
Yes, it does. It does go with my rule. It's
19.
It does in the sense because it's under the threshold of 525. As long as you're under.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I'm saying don't go 529. That's where
I got you. If we feel good about the fence getting fixed, and we feel good about the condition of everything else, right? There's no problems, right?
No.
So.
And we look at these other things. We saw this one listed at 515 and went under contract in 4 days. This listed at 650 at 302 a square foot. New construction went under in 17 days. This sucker's been sitting for 28 days, listed at 579.9.
That's too high.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Julia, what do you think is the price?
550.
550.
Oh.
Grace, what do you think?
I would probably, I mean, I don't know enough to like the other.
It's okay. It's okay.
The
Just
other
a guess.
house, yeah, they're just different homes, and I don't know like how you guys are coming up with like you said, the premium windows at the top. Like, what does that mean versus like, Emily not having those windows? Like, does
it's your guess as good as anyone's, truly, Grace, when it comes down to, there is no numerical. I'm not saying that I'm showing you those things. They're just things that you kind of put all into your psyche and go, what's reasonable? And so there's no, you're right. I'm just glowing. Okay, do we look better or worse than this? To some people, they'll love that contemporary styling. To other people, her house is going to feel way more warm and charming.
right? I mean, I think someone mentioned like the big yard in the back and all of that, but I would probably still go around like 522 or 520.
Perfect.
Well.
So I just did the comps at 525, or excuse me, the price per foot. That's the price at 525, y'all.
Okay, that's a little high.
That's high.
So it's high. So there's nothing that has sold for $300 a square foot. Well, we've got this one at 302, but we don't know what it closed at. Most likely it's probably near there. So that makes me think, geez, all right, even though 525 seems doable, price per foot, that's pretty stout, isn't it?
How are you doing that calculation?
You take the sales price. So I just put in 525 divided by 1730 square feet, 303 a foot.
Okay.
And then I go back here because, again, that's where this price per foot gets important, in that it's not everything, but it's something. You can't be like, I just think that's where I think that the 500 is the magic number. I think it'll get bid up, but what I'd really hate is go 525 and then it sit. You know, it's sit. And Sylvia's making some fantastic points in the chat that I encourage you to check out there too. But
And it sounds like in this market, I mean, like you're even saying like it's almost worth it to go a little bit lower because people will bid up. I mean, people
yeah,
are going
but you're trying to get a seller, you know, and I'll say all the things. Look, Mr. Seller, I don't want to leave a nickel on the table either. But what I know, if we are underpriced, and we'll just use under in quotes, the market will tell us. They will come in droves. They will make multiple offers. They will bid it higher. What I also know is if you're overpriced, they often don't come. They don't make offers, even if they would at a different price. And sellers say, well, why don't they just make an offer? I mean, if they don't like the price, they still like the house, just make us an offer. Buyers are fickle that way. They just choose not to tell you. You may not even know why they don't. The point is this is what I know, is if in this market, you don't have one or multiple offers within 5 days of being on the market, you got a price problem and you better fix it in 7 days or less. And when the market sees you reducing your price, they know what's happening. You'd be much better off served to price it reasonably and let the market bid it up. Because in the frenzy of the bidding, it will go higher than it would it not. So I would recommend listing this property at 500 as coming soon. I put it on the market on a Friday. Maybe do the all offers due Monday. We review on Tuesday. I do not make offers due on Sundays because I don't want to encourage and demand agents work on Sunday. They do, we know it. But make your offer deadlines Monday, not Sunday, please. Give us all a break.
Well, and also you got to get your lender to write you a letter. And
Thank
that
you.
often takes till Monday.
It's like we have so much influence on how this game goes, and I don't think we're always thinking it through.
This
So-
is really good for me. This actually proves that I was at the right number at 500 for list.
Right.
So I told my clients that I was powwowing with several of my realtor expert friends to talk about pricing it. And I can't wait to go back to them and say they landed at the same number I did.
Well, you know what's so funny too? You could actually send them this recording. Please block my
Really?
name. Yeah, you could. This will be available as soon as I hit end. And
Cool.
Bell in the East office will post it, and you could send that link to your client, and they could watch this firsthand to see. And you could share this with your other clients as just a good, hour and a half of like, what did we go through? Like, this is how it's really done. And there's no science. This is still a best guess. You could go on the market at 500 and she could get no offers. And it's like, what do we do? What did we do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. The market's just telling you what and where it's at. Why didn't it sell? Why did this other one sell for that? Well, it could have been that day, that person. It was the right situation. You know, there's a lot of no rhyme and reason to pricing right now. I had 3 offers on West Eastland. They ranged from 300 to 476,000. It was a teardown. I listed at 400. The offers ranged from 300 to 476. The market is not making sense right now, but it's because we have a lot of influx of out-of-state money, 1031 exchange money. And so when you look at 2 penthouses that just sold in New York for 160 million to the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, the comps don't what do you do? Four Seasons says our penthouse is $2,000 a square foot. It's worth it when somebody finally says, sure, I'll pay that. Nobody would have thought you'd be paying $400 a square foot in Cleveland Park. It's happening. And if you think it's bad now, wait till
It's about
Oracle.
to get-
Wait till Oracle's in. You'll see just how bad. And so people often say, I'm going to wait till the market cools off. Okay. 2009 likely isn't coming. The economists are not predicting a crash. A slowdown or a cooling, maybe. But I don't think, unfortunately, it's not like gas prices. Nobody thought we'd ever pay $1.80 a gallon again, and we did. Housing doesn't crash like that in our market. This isn't Las Vegas, Arizona, Florida, or California. We are sort of a slow steady. Even at our worst period, Davidson County's crashes was about 15% in 2009. The suburbs was even worse. Now we're seeing the suburbs, aka Williamson County, is eclipsing our rate of appreciation. I wish I would have bought everything at the peak in 07, 08, all those people that thought they overpaid, right? And all the people that thought they were so genius that bought in the crash of 09. Well, both were geniuses, right? The people that could hang on. What I know about real estate, I advise everyone, buy as much as you can and hold it as long as you can. Everything I've sold has gone up. Even the house, my personal house I just sold 2 years ago, I left $500,000 on the table in less than 2 years. It's bitter, but you just let it go. I still won. You know, sometimes you have to sell things to do other things. But most importantly, don't let sellers get greedy. Be realistic with your pricing and know that the market will bid it up. You're not leaving money on the table. You have a strategy and plan to help get them the highest and best value. The way to do that is do the comps like we did. Give them a good product like Emily coached them to do. Get good photos, put it on the market right. Be monitoring, doing the teaser marketing on some of the Facebook profiles and other places. Make your personal phone calls to the top selling agents in the area. Do this like where you're getting feedback on your pricing before you go live, and you're going to win every time. You do as many things right as possible, give you the greatest return. Any final questions before we go? Well, I appreciate y'all hanging in. I went super over, but this was, I didn't intend it to be, but it was a great listing to cover a lot of things regarding zoning and HPR. It works the same in single family. I would have just done that data set different, eliminating HPRs, detached or attached, only as a single family. And my ranges for, I don't ever restrict price ranges typically. I only restrict bedroom and bath count, square footage, and garage or no garage, and then property type. Because if I'm restricting the price, then I'm already influencing the data set, and I'm trying to find a price, not drive the price. But sometimes when looking at $1 million plus properties in a similar range of footage, you might see you'll have ranges from 1 to 7 million. It's like acreage. So, and you have to look at acreage when you're looking out of town, because you'll be like, something's like 6 million and you've got 1 million and they all have the same specs. Oh, that one's got 28 acres. Okay. So you might have to restrict acreage. Okay.
Thank you so much, Teddy, and everyone.
Good luck. We look forward to seeing it on the market.
I know I got to find them a house to live in, but it will
Let's
be on the
hope-
market
What it
once we
sells
do.
for.
Yes, you must report back what it sells for.
Definitely.
Take care, y'all. This recording
Bye,
will be posted by Belle here just shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.